Hello everyone and welcome to this Law Society Gazette Jobs and JMC Legal Recruitment webinar on career planning for 2021. I am Rita Oscar, Manager of the Law Society's Career Service. I'd like to take a few moments to tell you how the Law Society's Career Service is here to support you throughout your career. We have several products and services to provide support from pre-qualification right through to supporting you at various stages of your career once qualified. It could be that you want advice on qualification, changing career direction, returning following a career break, etc. We are here to support you through that. Amongst other things, we offer one-to-one advice via our free career clinics, which are led by qualified legal career coaches. On the Law Society website, you'll find career guidance and further information on our services, or you can always email us at careers@lawsociety.org.uk. Please also remember you can register with Law Gazette Jobs and receive tailored job alerts across all practice areas and locations. Before I hand over to Jason Connolly and Sean Nicholson from JMC Legal Recruitment, we would ask you to please participate in today's session by asking questions in the chat box, which you'll find at the top left of the screen. If you have any technical issues, please post these in the chat box and one of our team will respond to you via private message. I hope you find the session useful. Thank you to those who sent questions in advance, and I will now hand over to Jason.
Hello, good morning, everybody. It's great to have you with us today. Thank you so much for coming along. My name is Jason Connolly. Thank you, Rita, for that introduction. I'm CEO of JMC Legal Recruitment. We're the UK's #1 ranked legal recruitment agency. We do a lot of work at partner level. We move teams around the City of London, and we also work internationally. And we're here today, both myself and Sean, who will introduce himself shortly, to help you in your career and to give you as much advice as we possibly can. We're going to really make the most of this hour. What I'd encourage you to do at the start, if you have any question, no question is too small. Please go to the right-hand side chat box and submit your question, and we will get through as many of these as we possibly can in this next hour. I'm really excited to help you all, and thanks so much to the Law Society for putting this event on today. It is the third one we've had, and both the last two were extremely successful. I'll hand over to Sean so he can introduce himself to you. Over to you, Sean.
Hello, I'm the Managing Director of JMC. I joined JMC in 2017. So since then, my role has been to build the London team. So now we stand as one of the leading London teams. We have, I think, 8, soon to be 9 recruiters on London, covering everything from partner moves across the city, West End, boutiques, to associate and paralegal, legal secretary support roles all over London, whether that's the city, West End, Greater London, etc. So I specialise in, as Jason said, partner and team moves across the city. It's just something I've sort of built up over the last few years in an area and a level that I've sort of become quite well known in. So I've placed highly regarded partners and teams with top city firms, West End firms and boutique firms as well. And I continue to do so whilst also being managing director of JMC, which means that I train a lot of the consultants that we have coming through, which we are passionate about training and giving as much input as we can to help the consultants we have, to help everybody else in the market, whether it's clients or candidates alike as well. So they're all very competent and they're all trained to a very high standard.
Okay, thank you, Sean. It's worth saying as well, between Sean and I, we've placed thousands of candidates over the years into different roles with our team working under us as well. So there's probably not too many things that we haven't come across in the legal industry and with moving people. But what we really specialise in is helping people to understand their full potential and how to apply themselves in their career. So that's a bit about us. We're going to kick straight off with some of the questions. Please do use the chat box on the right. Submit those questions early and we will get to them and we'll try and answer as many as we possibly can. So the first pre-submitted question is, what is the best way to secure a remote in-house role? This individual said, I was previously head of legal, so already have in-house experience, but for practical reasons would prefer a remote role. The good news is, as a result of the pandemic, more and more employers are becoming open-minded about remote working. If they weren't already so before the pandemic, they definitely are now. And we've seen a real significant increase in companies that are going to be offering agile working and remote working moving forwards. So that's one great thing that's come from the pandemic. And actually, speaking about the job market in general, it's really busy at the moment. There is no shortage of roles in the legal industry. More so at the senior level, there's a lot of opportunity out there. So talking about this question then, remote roles, I would quite simply go onto the job boards and start looking at roles that offer remote working. Most of the job boards now will actually have a filter that you can select, which will make sure that the only jobs you see are remote working roles. When it comes to in-house roles, it is extremely competitive. If I was to have £1 for every time we had someone call up for an in-house role, there is a lot of demand for these positions, more so than private practice. When we put out an in-house job advert, on average, we see 150% more applications than we do of that private practice. So you need to be on the ball when it comes to looking for in-house roles, because sometimes when they're put up, they're taken down within a matter of days. So it's really, really important to be on the ball. What I would do is I would go to all the main job boards and I would sign up for job alerts. And rather than get flooded every day by a mountain of jobs, use the filters on the job boards to actually pinpoint what it is that you want. So tick the options for remote working, tick the options for general counsel, legal counsel, all of those kind of associated positions. And then every day in your inbox, you should get a fresh set of emails with the best opportunities in the market. You can go to all the top legal job boards. That's the way I would handle the search. I don't think you're at a disadvantage with remote working. The only thing you'd need to really think about is how are you going to integrate into the team as well, being remote. But I think a lot of companies have really given this a lot of thought. A lot of companies now are going out of survival mode and really starting to think about how is it we're going to drive business growth in 2021. So I hope that answered that question. I'm going to hand this next one over to Sean. Sean, your question is, what are the most important elements of a career plan?
I think everyone has different goals, don't they? And I think this will change throughout your career. So my advice, and I think this is advice I've also been giving myself, would be to put together a 5 to 10 year career plan in the first instance. Obviously, your career will go on longer than that, but you need to think about the mid to sort of long term now. So what I would do is set out plans about where it is you want to be. So whether that's a partner at a city firm, a West End firm, a boutique firm, whether you want to go in-house and become a general counsel or head of legal, then what you need to do is map out how you're going to do this and work backwards from that. So what do I mean by that? I mean, look at every step and every step it takes to reach where you want to be, and try and reach one step by step. So these things don't happen overnight, of course they don't. But if you put the right plans in place now to get there, then of course this can make things happen sooner. So I think it's important every year, maybe every 6 months actually, to look at where you're up to with your plans and what it is you've achieved in that period of time. So every half year, maybe look at, right, where am I up to in terms of billings, in terms of business development? If you're in-house, how are you integrating with the business in general, the company, the culture, etc.? Because you need to make sure all these things align with what it is you need to achieve your goals. So one thing, or one important bit of advice from me and from everyone that I sort of know as well, would be to surround yourself with others that have done this. So if you work, say you're an associate at a firm in the city, well, speak with a senior associate, ask them how they got there, what they put in place to make that step to becoming a senior associate. And then when you become a senior associate, then you should be speaking to partners or junior partners and asking them what it is you need to do and how long it took them to get there as well. So I think one really important thing here is being mentored by the right people. So if you're not mentored by the right person, you may be making steps that aren't leading you in the right direction. So surrounding yourself with positivity, having those people mentor you and having advice at all steps is really, really important for you to achieve the goals that you want. And then obviously if they do change, and in 5 years' time you think, you know what, I don't want to become a partner, I want to go elsewhere, then obviously you can change your career plan, but then keep doing that yearly review and 6 monthly review as well to make sure you're getting there.
Great, thank you, Sean. I think some really good advice there. I think what you said in regards to positivity and mindset is really important. I actually host a podcast called the Career Success Podcast. Do check it up on iTunes, called the Career Success Podcast. We actually talk a lot about mindset. We talk to multimillionaires, people who've set up their businesses, and mindset, I believe, is absolutely key when it comes to business. Yes, we all have knockbacks, but you've got to pick yourself up and learn from those experiences. And I know myself, I've had a multitude of knockbacks over the years, but if you come back in the right way, that can really help. Great advice there, Sean. So next question, there's some great questions coming in. I can see those now, so I'm looking forward to answering some of those. Next question, I would like to secure a hybrid role combining law and sustainability. I am undertaking a part-time master's in sustainability with Cambridge University. How can I best position myself when I am an experienced lawyer, but relatively new to sustainability? A good question. You're going to a great university, so that's a good start when it comes to looking for your role. The fact that you're an experienced lawyer, but you're new to sustainability, the way I look at that is you've just added another string to your bow, which is great. I would, again, be looking at job boards, but what can you do to get yourself ahead of the game and make sure you get that role in sustainability? What I would start doing is actually sit down with a notepad and actually work out what role is it you want in sustainability? What is it you want to do? Is it you want to work for a charity? Is it you want to work for an organisation that specialises in it? Is it you want to work in private practice specialising in that area of law? Once you've kind of got down a tailored list of what it actually is that you want to do, what I would then start doing is thinking about who is it that I need to network with in order to secure your right role. Because the thing is, when you're just looking for active jobs that come on the market, you're probably only looking for there's only a certain percentage of the opportunities out there that do come onto the market. But a lot of the time, by networking with the right people, they might see potential in you and say, actually, do you know what? We'd really like to have you join our organisation. So what you could do is first start looking, once you've got that tailored list, right, let's just say, for example, you want to work in private practice doing sustainability, start getting together a target list of partners that you can maybe reach out to, approach, and then you can start having conversations with them. I know Sean's going to speak about the power of LinkedIn in just a moment, but LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. It's anyone that joins LinkedIn generally is on that platform for a reason. They're on that platform because they want to network. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. But for this particular individual, what I would first of all do, get together a career plan, what it is that you actually want to do in sustainability, and then start reaching out and making professional acquaintances, and even better, making friends in that area of law, and ask them for their advice. Say, listen, you're in the type of job that I am actually looking for. What advice would you give to me? Is there any hiring coming up in your company? And by investing that time, I think you'll be really surprised by the results that you can harness from that. Sean, a question for you, another pre-submitted question. Please keep your questions coming in. We're going to start whizzing through these very shortly. Another pre-submitted question. Should I be approaching employers directly via LinkedIn if I see a role I like? Leads nicely on from the last question.
Yeah, I think my advice here would be, in the first instance, if you can find a direct email address and send through a CV with a detailed email describing why you're applying for the role, that could hold a little bit more weight than just sending a message and that popping up in the corner of somebody's screen. I think it's something that happens with us as well. People do contact me on LinkedIn every single day, and I get so many messages where sometimes it takes me a while to go through them, but then if it's in my inbox, that's on my screen, I can see that straight away, so it's not sort of flooding my inbox. So my advice would be, if you can do that and you can find your email address, then of course apply that way. But if it's an in-house role, of course it can be difficult to find email addresses as opposed to if it's in private practice. So most employers will want to know more about you and your skills before they'll reply to an application. Naturally, they want to see exactly what it is you've done, how many years PQE you are, and then what it is you're sort of looking to do next. So if that isn't something you can do, then of course LinkedIn, as Jason said, is very, very powerful. I think most lawyers, except for 15% of them, are on LinkedIn. So the network there is huge. You always want to be building your network. So if you do apply through LinkedIn, then obviously make sure, well, actually, there's different ways you can apply. If the job is live on LinkedIn and they've posted a job on LinkedIn, then you can actually submit your CV through that. And there's other ways of doing it. You can submit your CV or you can send over your profile. This is why having a detailed LinkedIn profile is important. One thing I think we find is a lot of lawyers out there don't have very detailed LinkedIn profiles. So this isn't actually useful for recruiters either, just so this may be something to bear in mind. If you've done a training contract and you've done conveyancing, family, corporate, commercial, litigation, and then you've gone on to be a corporate lawyer, then our back-end searches will then push up that you've done conveyancing, etc. So you want to target your LinkedIn profile to being a corporate lawyer or whatever it is you specialize in. I think going on LinkedIn and applying direct to roles will eliminate the competition as well, because some people will apply on job boards and wait till the role does come live there as well. So I think we make a lot of placements by going proactively to the markets. So a lot of the roles that I place, well, they're not even roles. A lot of the firms that I place with, a lot of the partners and teams I place, there won't necessarily be a live opportunity for them. It's about me having good relationships with the firms that I work with and making sure that I keep them in the loop should a partner in litigation come onto the market that they've been looking for. So the importance of LinkedIn is, it's up there with the most important network you can have. I would always recommend building your network as well, because the amount of roles that I've been given or seen on LinkedIn with firms that I've never heard of before, then I do a little bit more digging and realize, wow, this firm really do punch well above their weight just by growing my network. And certain partners from the city or West End firms, they open up their own firm. If you're not building your network and staying proactive on LinkedIn, you could be missing out on that life-changing opportunity for you. So yeah, I agree with Jason. The power of LinkedIn is incredible.
I do agree. I've managed to build a personal brand on LinkedIn, which has really been life-changing. But it's something that you've got to put the effort into, like everything else. If you just join the platform, but you don't use it, you don't engage with it, you don't start talking to your audience, then you're not really going to reap any rewards from it. Like anything in life, you've got to put the effort in. If you put the effort in, then it's all going to, rewards will start being reaped. Another question here. I am a mature student, having just completed my master's in sports law with a distinction. At 40, is it too late for me to realistically change careers and train to become a barrister specialising in sports and mediation? Will it be against me, but I'm no longer a young gun? Or will life work experience count favourably? I see so many young people at university, and these days I'm very worried I won't be able to follow my dream to work in the legal profession. And now that I've graduated, is the SQE the right route to take advantage of further towards being able to work as a solicitor or a barrister in the profession? My answer to that question, quite frankly, is good on you. You've gone out there at 40 years old. You've gained a new skill. You've got loads of drive and ambition. And no, not at all. My personal thoughts are, and I do get asked this a lot, on age, experience, and things like that. I personally would rather have someone come to my door with a lot of life experience, because someone who might be at university who's young, and I'm not in any way saying that there's nothing wrong with someone out of university who's a graduate, isn't going to have the life experience that you've got. So I think what you need to do is maybe sit down and really think about, what is it that I gained in these, 20 years since you've been in your career, and actually think about, how can I apply these moving forwards? What is it that I can offer a future employer? I've had loads of different jobs over the years, and I've changed careers many times. I was cabin crew for Virgin Atlantic. I worked for Virgin Atlantic in Heathrow operations. I was a Met police officer. I even started out at my late teens performing magic all over the country and internationally. And I know all too well about interpersonal, interchangeable skills. I think the area you are wanting to go into, sports and mediation, it's a really popular area of law that people want to go into. Loads of people want to go into sports, and whenever we get a sports role, we get a multitude of people who really want to go into that area. So what I would say to you is is sit down and give yourself the time to think about what skills is it that I've gained in this year? What is it that you've got that's going to put you ahead of the people that you class as the young guns? Well, I don't even know you from this question, but I can already say life experience, probably negotiation. There's probably a multitude of skills, but you've got to sell yourself in the right way. Like Sean mentioned just a moment ago, I think it's really important to start networking with people in that area. Get on LinkedIn, start adding sports partners, start speaking to them, start engaging with them, start asking them questions. And I think, again, you'll be surprised by the results. Life experience does count. I think you just need to be clear on what it is that, one, you want, how you're going to get it, and give yourself that time to sit down to work out how you're going to market yourself, because it's really, really important. When you mentioned about the SQE, the SQE, yeah, it's worth doing. It might help you if you really want to work as a solicitor or a barrister, but you might want to go in maybe unqualified and go down another route. I think you need to ask yourself the question, what is it that's most important to you here? Are you wanting to be a solicitor in that area of law? Or would you, at the moment, rather than investing your time in the SQE, would you maybe rather go straight into a role, get on the job experience and qualify by a different route? But to answer your question in brief, absolutely not. Opportunity exists for anyone at any age. It's just, and that's my mindset on things, but it's about how you apply yourself and sell yourself. If you're already in that mindset that someone isn't going to look at me because I'm older, or someone isn't going to consider me, because I'm not as young as other people, then you're in that wrong mindset. Change that mindset into a value-adding mindset. How is it you're going to sell yourself? How is it you're going to tell a future employer the value you can add? And I just want to emphasize to people, it's all about adding value. Always be in that mindset when you go into an interview. Think about the value you can add. And if you're talking that language to a potential employer, they're going to look at you as the right sort of person. I'll give you a quick example. You're going to an interview, and you part of your due diligence on the interview is you start looking at the company or the firm's website. You start looking at things that the company does. Then you go into the interview and they say, tell me a bit about the company. What do you think, Jason? And I say to them, well, actually, I've looked at your website. I can see that you do this. Actually, I've noticed in the social media bit here, I was thinking this might be a good idea. This could potentially work. And the employer's going to think, this is a person I like. He's already starting to apply himself and think in the right way. So adding value is incredibly important. It's not just about being technically great. Technically great is important, but what value do you add? So I hope that answers that. I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope you manage to secure the role that you want. So Sean, another question for you. Do I need to tailor every cover letter to each job I apply to? Do recruiters read the cover letters? Are they still necessary?
I think with this question, I think it depends on the job. I wouldn't say you need to tailor a cover letter for every single job out there, but a well-drafted cover letter, of course, it can sometimes stand you apart from your competition. I think it depends on the firm and the role. If you're applying directly to a firm, then of course include a cover letter. I know when you apply to recruiters on some of the job boards, it will ask you to include a cover letter. I'll be honest with you, most recruiters won't read a cover letter top to bottom in the first instance. I think this can be very time consuming. If there are 50 applications for one role and each one of them comes with a detailed cover letter, well, reading through all of those could take up most of your day, which then puts us behind in helping you actually secure your role. So good recruiters will ring you and go through a very detailed registration process. This will then lead to them picking out the key bits of information needed for the application. So if they know the firm and the role well enough, they should be able to guide you as to what information you need to be providing them with to make that application. So once they have those key bits of information, I know that the good recruiters out there will put together their own form of cover letter, which would be slightly different to the cover letter that you would write yourselves, and then take all the points to make sure that if they are putting you forward for the role, there is a high chance you will secure an interview for that. I think recruiters should be honest with you as well on that point there, and not waste any time at all. So yes, if you're applying direct to a firm and they're a firm that wants a cover letter, of course you have to include a cover letter. If applying to recruiters, I don't think you do need to include a cover letter in that, unless you feel there are points that you really want to get out there. Things like Jason said, if you've got a lot of life experience and there's a lot of things that you want to include in your cover letter, which would stand you apart, then of course do it. Other than that, I would be picking up the phone to the recruiter, going through all the details about what it is you've done in your career and getting them to guide you in the right direction with the roles out there and the firms they work with.
Great, thank you very much. Right, we're coming to these live questions now. Please do keep them coming in. We're going to get through as many as we can, and there's some really great questions coming in. So a question here. A lot of firms tend to be focused on up or out. What options are there for lawyers who have mid-level experience, 9 to 10 years, but perhaps don't want partnership as there are other life focuses, such as starting a family? What would you recommend for someone who is just happy to do the work, but is not wanting to become a partner and not wanting to do a lot of business development? It's a great question. And I think a lot of people tend to assume that if you don't go forward with partnership, that is the only career option. And it's not the case. There's so many people out there where partnership isn't for them. Perhaps they don't want to lead a department. Perhaps they don't want to manage people. And that doesn't mean that that's the end of your career. There's still a load of options out there. One thing we do tend to find that a lot of working parents tend to like is PSLs, or PSL, professional support lawyer, or how else do you describe them?
Knowledge lawyer.
Knowledge lawyer.
Yeah.
That's the words I'm looking for. I had a mind block there. Knowledge lawyer roles, and they tend to be quite good because one, quite often they tend to be part-time roles. Secondly, they tend to be quite flexible on hours, so they tend to align themselves around school hours, and generally they tend to be quite nice roles. If you don't know what a knowledge lawyer is, I'm sure quite a lot of people here do. They generally go away, do all the research on new legislation, they train the team, they make sure everyone's up to date on any changes to the law, etc. And those roles tend to be nice roles. There's still a multitude of different opportunities out there. You could even still just stay as a fee earner that's servicing the work that comes in. Perhaps you maybe really enjoy the client aspect of the role, or just servicing the work in itself. And there's nothing wrong with that. All the time we get candidates who call us that just want to move roles at maybe 10, 11, 12 years PQE. You might also find as well in-house, there could be opportunities for you there as well. 9, 10 years is a really good level of PQE for in-house roles. That tends to be a lot of the time where the kind of sweet spot is for experience that a lot of in-house companies want. I think maybe what I would advise you is to think about if the priority here, okay, is the family. What is it that you're really wanting to do internally? Because if it is still the pressure of fee earning is too much, and maybe you want a role that is different, then you need to think about where is that role going to be? Because some in-house roles, can equally be demanding, but actually other in-house roles can offer flexi time, unlimited annual leave. It really depends on the company that you're going to. But just because you don't want to be a partner, there's still a multitude of opportunity out there. Sean, I think you have a couple of points to add to this one.
Yeah, I do. I think this is something that's come up quite a lot, especially in what I've been doing over the last few years. And there's a lot of firms out there who have actually put career paths in place for individuals that don't necessarily want to become partners. So there's quite a few firms out there who, and the titles are sort of legal director or another title like that. So what this does is gives you progression, but also gives you the opportunity to have a lot more flexibility where you don't have the responsibilities of being a partner, but you're still at the same level in terms of seniority. So you are looked at as a partner, but then you don't have to do all the other things around being a partner with some firms, such as partners meetings and all the other things that you may not want to do or you may not get time to do. So I think the legal world is changing. I know a lot of firms were sort of behind the curve. I think a lot of them are now catching up and getting ahead of the curve. So these things will be changing. And I'm seeing and having a lot of conversations with a lot of firms out there and with the team as well, where firms are actually asking us what they need to do to attract individuals like this, because they don't always want partners in their teams. If they've got someone of this level of experience who's very good at the job, but only wants to work 3 or 4 days a week, well, that can add loads of value to the department. So there's plenty of opportunity out there for someone at that level.
Great advice. You're on a roll, Sean. There's another question for you. What alternative career paths are there for lawyers in the property dispute sector? Are you seeing more in the way of in-house roles?
Yeah, this is something I've been asked before, actually, and I have placed lawyers in-house in property litigation. I think, well, the first point would be, what sort of property litigation are you doing? I think that's something important to know before we can potentially help you. But there's plenty of businesses out there that will need somebody in-house, because if you look, and obviously there's probably going to be a lot more of this work coming up, so it's probably quite timely, but there's a lot of businesses and housing associations, etc., out there who do outsource a lot of property litigation work. And some of the numbers that I've heard, you're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of fees a year. So my advice to them has been, well, why don't you get somebody in-house who could do that work and then delegate work to firms as and when needed? And a lot of businesses, you'll be surprised, they don't think about this. They don't realise, oh, if I get somebody in-house, they could do the job, and then we can have support of law firms when I need it. So there are a lot of roles out there. I think one thing I see, and one thing that's quite common with property disputes lawyers, is when I have conversations with them, they do say to me, well, I don't see many in-house roles. Well, we do work on in-house roles. And I think, again, it goes back to building your network. If you have a strong enough network and you're all people and the right businesses as well, then the right role will come up. I think it is a competitive area when it comes to sort of people applying for roles in property disputes, but there are roles out there and you can take an in-house role. I think it's just aligning yourself with the right business where there's a good flow of work, and it's not somewhere where one day you're busy and the next day you're sort of twiddling your thumbs. But again, if you align yourself with a good recruiter, then of course they can help point you in the right direction.
Totally agree with that. Next question. I'm an Indian qualified lawyer with a master's in LLM from Queen Mary's University in London. I have 2 years of Indian work experience in direct taxes, insolvency, bankruptcy and arbitration. In a post-Brexit UK under the new points-based system as a non-EU national, what chances does someone like me stand to secure a paralegal role? Any tips you can provide in that direction, please? It's a great question. It's a question we've been asked a lot recently. I think the first thing you need to do is I would be building up your experience personally in India and getting as much experience as you possibly can, because if you're going to come over to the UK, I'm assuming, and I'm not an immigration specialist, I'll add that now, you're going to need to get sponsorship from an employer. So you're going to need to have something special to offer an employer. But all the time, there's a lot of big firms in London who sponsoring people is second nature to them. It's a usual process, and it's something they do all the time. We often see people coming over from all over the world into different roles where sponsorship is an option, but those candidates always have something that the firm wants. It might be that candidate's got experience in the Middle East working on a market, and this firm's doing a lot of work over there. Or, you know, I think you've got to have something to offer the firm, because if someone is going to go out there and sponsor you, that generally is a fair bit of work. So I think you've got to have a great skill set to offer. So I'd really think about what is it that you can offer a company in the UK. And then once you've kind of got that sketched out, then start to kind of think of a plan of how you can get over here. And what you might even find is a good option is maybe look for a law firm in India that has also got offices in the UK, or look for a company in India that's got offices in the UK. Then see if you can transfer internally. And that's probably actually the quickest route to get over to the UK is to take a route like that. Try and find a company that's got strong ties to the UK, and then make a case internally to move across. And generally, I think if you've got a lot of value, any company is going to rather you want to move internally than to lose you altogether. Sean, question for you here. Good morning. I've had a career break and I'm looking to return to law in a different field, private client. I used to be a conveyancer. I'm currently studying the STEP diploma to give me some relevant skills. Great diploma to have, but unsure how to go about obtaining practical experience. Any advice, please?
Yeah, I think there's another question as well that I've seen that says, and I can answer both in one go here. Do you see many senior lawyers moving specialism? If so, what are the key ways to get a new firm / company to look at your CV? So I think we'll start with, yes, we do see senior lawyers moving specialism. I think we see it more often in the regions than we do in London. So I think if you are a private client, or if you are a conveyancer, looking to move into private client, I'm not going to lie, it can be difficult. Of course it can. I think obviously doing the STEP diploma is important and it will help you gain skills. But I think what a lot of firms do, and it's something that they've done for years, is obviously if you are to apply for a role and somebody else applies for a role who's got more training, then obviously they're going to potentially look at the other person more favorably. But I think what you need to be prepared for, if you are a senior lawyer or you are an experienced lawyer in another field looking to move into private client or any other area, you need to be prepared that you'll be going in as an NQ. So your salary may be different. You'll be going in at a completely different level. You'll be starting from the bottom again. If it's something you're willing to do, then absolutely fine. But it's something you need to consider before doing that, because I've seen it happen before where a senior lawyer moves over to a different specialism and then they're treated as a junior lawyer, because you will be a junior lawyer. You may have experience of doing things like wills and probate in the past, but if you don't have up-to-date experience, then you need to be prepared for that. But I think it's definitely doable. You can do it. If it's something you're passionate about and you want to move across, then of course, give it a go. And how would you do that? Then my advice again would be to keep an eye out on opportunities out there. The private client, or just private client in general, is getting busy. Of course, since the pandemic started, it's been one of the busiest areas. So align yourself with people in private client. Make sure you grow your LinkedIn network. Make sure you're reaching out to people. If you see an opportunity with a recruiter that's at the junior level and you feel like it's something you want to pursue, then ring them, speak to them. Without having conversations with the recruiters and the firms, you're never going to know if you can secure a role in that area. So you need to be having conversations. My advice would be to be on the phone, not to be hiding behind emails as well. It's something that I see often is people are emailing about roles and will I be right for this? Well, if we've never spoken, I can't actually answer that question. You need to speak to me and tell me who you are and why you want to do that and all these things that then I can go out there and point you in the right direction. But yes, it's doable. It's hard, but you need to find the right opportunity and somewhere where they're forward thinking. And like Jason said, where they're willing to take somebody on who has more life experience, etc., and change disciplines. But it can happen.
And I think just to add to that as well, don't be afraid to get on the phone. I think what Sean's saying is key there. I think we live in a digital age now where people always go as their first approach to sending an email, sending a message. That's all well and good. And I appreciate, picking up the phone sometimes and phoning someone direct can seem a bit scary. But actually, it makes you stand out because so few people do it now. Most people's way of making an introduction is to send an email. I'm a big believer that whatever the crowd does, you want to do the opposite because that's what's going to make you stand out. Obviously, within reason. I'm sure there's caveats to that very wide and open-ended statement, but you want to make yourself stand out. And, you've got to think about brand you. You've got to think about your personal brand as an individual and how you're going to kind of grow that. I know we keep coming back on this webinar to LinkedIn, but it's really important. Some really great questions coming in. Please do continue to submit them. We're going to get through as many as we can. I think we're on a roll now, Sean. Right, the next question. I'm a trainee accountant, but I'm planning on changing career. I want to enter the legal industry. Do you have any tips on guidance on how to do this? So I would say that there's big similarities between accountancy firms and law firms. So it's not like you're moving away to kind of a completely different world. There's a lot of similarities in terms of the structure, the way the businesses operate, the fact that they're partnerships, and the fact that you're giving people professional advice in what is a regulated industry. So if you want to change industries to get into legal, obviously I don't know what your qualifications are and so on, but a good route in for you might be to go into a firm as a paralegal, but go to a progressive firm, which will give you the opportunity to perhaps do the ILEX, the legal executive course. Because the great thing with the ILEX is you can qualify by on-the-job experience. Yes, there are a number of exams that come with that. But the good thing about the ILEX is one, you're getting paid, you're getting on-the-job experience at the same time. And once you've become qualified with the ILEX, you can apply to the SRA to become a qualified solicitor. And the great thing about that is that I really like people who qualify through ILEX or people that have been previously legal secretaries. As you probably tended to notice from my answer to my previous question, people who've worked in the industry for a long time and then got qualified by on-the-job experience, I tend to find are really, really good candidates. And I have a lot of success placing candidates like that. I think what you want to do again is think about what skills have you got while working as a trainee accountant. Are you having client contact? What sort of advice are you giving to people? And think about the transferable skills that you've picked up that you can apply to the legal industry. I don't think it's that much of a difficult move. I think if you've got the right mindset and you're and you're clever in how you apply for the role. So, and it might even be, this is kind of where a cover letter probably would come in helpful, because of the fact that if your CV just arrives in a partner's inbox in a law firm with no explanation to the fact that you want to move into legal, the partner's going to be thinking, well, this CV isn't relevant to us. So it's your job to show why it's relevant, and it's your job to kind of, really flesh that out to the person. But I don't think it should be that much of a difficult move. I think there's big similarities between the sectors. Sean, question for you. Hello, I am trained in private practice and qualified into commercial. Upon qualification, I went in-house. However, I now wish to return to private practice. So I'm 3.5 years qualified, and I'm finding it very difficult getting a foothold. Is it unrealistic to expect that I can return after this amount of time? I've found many recruiters to be quite dismissive about the prospect.
Right, I think first of all, with that question, I think, again, it'd be good to know the sort of in-house role that you're doing and the type of work you're dealing with. I think one thing that tends to happen with commercial lawyers moving in-house is you tend to become more of a generalist. So you start picking up things all over. So whether that's corporate, commercial, litigation, whatever it may be, employment, you start picking up, or you take on a really varied role, which is fine. I think if you want to move back into private practice, it can be done, because I've done it multiple times. I've helped people move from in-house to private practice and vice versa. At 3.5 years qualified, you're sort of at the sweet spot area where a lot of firms in London are looking for somebody of that level of PQE, because that sits nicely between the NQs, 1 year PQEs, and also the partners in the departments. I think if you're struggling to find a foothold, it's probably due to the market, I imagine. One thing that I see quite often is recruiters can be quite dismissive. And many conversations I've had previously about recruiters being dismissive will be due to the current market. So the market changes all the time, of course it does. And if you practice in commercial and it's not really that busy, or it's not a buoyant area in the market at the moment, then recruiters will be dismissive. They will want to be talking to the right people, which I think, in my view, and I think Jason taught me this as well when I first started in recruitment, you need to speak with as many people as you can and make sure you're doing the best job you possibly can and pointing everybody in the right direction, because there will come a time where the right role will be there for you. And I think if those recruiters aren't having those conversations with you, then you will be missing out on the right opportunities. But you can move back into private practice. I think you really need to consider the move back to private practice, because a lot of firms will also look at the fact that you haven't had a billable hours target, etc. as well. And that's one thing that's really important, because it can be a big change. If you moved over upon qualification, then you haven't done a full year or two as a fee earner in private practice. So some firms will look at that. But I think if you align yourself with the right recruiter, or you keep an eye out for the right roles, and the right role will come along. And I think one thing you need to do as well is make sure your CV is very detailed. So make sure there's good facts and the points that will sell you and stand you apart. Because I'm sure if you're working in-house, you're going to have dealt with work that's very different to a lot of lawyers working in private practice. So get all those things on your CV. If you've got really strong selling points on there, then recruiters may not be as dismissive, and you may be able to then start finding the right role and securing more interviews as well.
Great, thank you. So there's a great question here. Hi, I'm a private client solicitor in London with 3 years PQE. At this stage of my career, I've been looking for a mentor. How does one go about finding one? Now, there's an interesting story actually about mentors, and I do speak about this on the Career Success podcast. Not that I keep plugging this podcast, but it is a great series. I wish I'd actually found a mentor. I got probably 4 years into running my business before I actually ever thought of reaching out to someone more experienced than me for advice. And yeah, I know this isn't necessarily everyone's situation, but on reflection now, I think back and think, why did I not reach out to someone more experienced and have a mentor? What I had to do was learn a lot of very hard mistakes along the way in business. And mentors are so important. I think everybody should make steps to try and find a mentor. And a mentor is a personal thing. And a mentor is very different to a trainer. A mentor is someone who's going to take you under their wing and give you lots of help and advice and guide you on the right path. And I wish I'd kind of thought of that actually sooner. I don't know why I never thought of even reaching out to someone more experienced. I think I was in the mindset of tackling every problem by myself. But I think, how do you find a mentor? I think it's a very personal thing. I don't think there's any one place to go to look for one. Maybe if you're a private client lawyer, is it you want to be mentored by someone more senior in private client? Or is it you want more of a sort of a life development coach or someone that specializes in helping people build their careers? It might be a private client partner isn't the right person for you to bring out the best in you. I think the kind of question to ask yourself when it comes to a mentor is to think about, what is it that I actually feel I need to develop? What journey is it I need to go on? What is it that I feel, can be offered to me? And actually start reaching out to people. It could be you reach out to partners. It might be there's someone internally in your own organization. But I think by going to events, and there's a multitude of events out there which you can go to network, even during these times of lockdown. I actually think as a result of lockdown, the world has become more accessible than ever. And I found myself going to events in New York, in different countries, the top high ends of Scotland. And actually, there's a great opportunity now, if you use this time right, to actually get out there and meet people. But I think a mentor is a very personal thing. I think it's something that you need to really kind of meet different people and find out who's right for you. And actually, I have a couple of different mentors now and people I take different experience from. One amazing woman I know is a lady called Laura Di Benedetto, who wrote a book called The 6 Habits. She's in Hawaii and she really helps me, even though I've never met her personally, she really helps to bring out the best qualities of me as a leader. So I think everyone should think about getting a mentor because it can really help you in life and it can really help fast track you. So I think that's a great question. Sean, question for you now. I'm a recently qualified solicitor, trained and have had several years paralegal experience in small high street firms. My goal is to move to a city, commercial, corporate sector role, but it seems most prefer experience from a similar firm. How do I go about securing such jobs? We get this question very often. So I'm sure you're used to answering this one, Sean.
I am very used to answering this question. I think firstly, I think you need to manage your own expectations. I think you're right in saying a lot of these firms do prefer to take on candidates with similar experience. I think the reason for that is because they don't have to train them as much. The level of the transaction's larger, the size of the teams is different, the sort of clients you're dealing with is completely different. Naturally, at that level of PQ in the city, you're not going to have a client-facing role. And I think my advice here would be to, forget about the larger city firms in the first instance. I think you want to take a step from a small high street firm to, say, a mid-sized West End firm, potentially, where they deal with good quality work, where you're going to have one-on-one time with the partners in the department, the senior associates in the department, because what you'll naturally find is a lot of these partners in the West End, and when I say West End, I don't necessarily mean just focus on West End. There's firms in the city that have a West End profile to them, but the lawyers they have would have worked in the city, so the skills they have and they've picked up over the years, what they'll be able to teach you will be at the level of those in the city. So you need, and this goes back to what I said earlier about a career plan. You need to look at your 5 to 10 year career plan. Are you going to go from a small high street firm to a Magic Circle firm? No, that's not going to happen. But what you can do is go from one firm, take a step up, then a couple of years later, take another step up. And then once you're once you're 2 steps up, that should then be able to put you in a position where you can then look at going to the city firm. But what you might find by then as well is you don't actually want to go to a larger city firm. I think a lot of lawyers have a dream or have this vision that going there will be the right place for them. It's not right for everybody. That's why there's so many different firms all over the place. I think taking that step is important. Do that first. And again, how you do that is by speaking with the right people, connecting with the right people, and looking for the right opportunities. And then it will put you in a good position in a few years' time to know whether you do want to make that step. And you should be able to make that step, and it'd be a lot more comfortable than it would if you did that now as well.
Great, yeah, great answer. Question here. Hi, I am a consultant / locum and have been for many years, and I've also set up in-house departments and wish to remain as a consultant on a contract basis. How can I stand out from those who are not kind of on, I guess what you're trying to say is those who have a permanent CV? I think the clue is in the title here. You've said yourself you're a consultant and locum, and you've spent many years setting up departments and working in those different roles. I think don't try and be something that you're not. You're not a permanent candidate, and permanent candidates are very different to contract candidates. But what you are is you are a specialist, and you've said here you want to continue to be a contract candidate. So what you need to do is get the strongest contract CV. You are an expert at coming into businesses, being parachuted in and having to just rock up on day one and pick up maybe a caseload. You're having to come in and just pick up the way things work. And actually, I really do take my hat off to contractors, because a lot of the time you're coming in, you haven't had an induction, you haven't had kind of all the things that normally go with a permanent induction, and you're used to just coming on, sometimes thinking on your feet. So I think what you need to do is just sell yourself as what you are. You are a contractor, and you are an expert at coming in and helping businesses that need a helping hand. So what I do tend to find, though, and a bit of advice for contractors, is sometimes their CVs can get so big because they put every single role on there. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes I think you need to think about, how is it that I can make myself stand out as a contractor? What points is it that I can put on the top, which are my headline points? What I would probably do as a contract CV is I would have all of your roles, different dates at the bottom. And it's something you're always going to have to keep updated. But at the top, have the skill sets that you've got, the achievements that you've got at the top, what you actually do. So that's what stands out, because on a permanent CV, it's very different. On a permanent CV, someone is going to really look in detail at the roles. Yes, that does happen on a contract CV, but the difficulty is if you're in one role for 3 months, another for 6 months, it's going to become so congested, that CV. So I think you need to think about what, at the end of the day, the CV is a document to sell you. It serves no other purpose than to sell you. So I think you need to think about, as a contractor, how is it that I can showcase and sell my experience? And I think it's a case of structuring the CV in the right way. Your CV might even turn into that of a mini portfolio. I'm a contractor who specializes in being parachuted in to help in-house departments. And that's your CV, so to speak. But, you know, I think don't try and compete against permanent candidates. You're not a permanent candidate. You're an expert at being parachuted in. So I think that's what to focus on. Right, we've got another 10 minutes. Let's try and crack through as many as we can, Sean. Right. Hello, I've left an in-house financial services role after 18 years and took a career break for a rest and family. After 2+ years, I'm ready for a new role. How best should I market myself? Are there any considerations taking into account I have not been working? Are the best roles really hidden or not advertised?
I think we've worked with a number of candidates who have taken career breaks. I think it's quite common, especially after that length of time. I don't think there's any issues with that. I don't think it sets you back at all. I think with all of the experience you have, that's a real selling point. So going back to what Jason said, you obviously need to really sell yourself on your CV. If you're ready to look for a new role, I think I would be, if I was you, I'd market yourself as someone with experience of 18 years and you need to obviously make it clear of all the experience that you do have. So obviously in the financial services sector, if you're looking for a new role, if you want to change the business you're working for, it can be done. I think it's just about the right role come along at the right time. So I would just get all the selling points down, especially on your LinkedIn, on your CV, and make sure you're aligning yourself with the right recruiters who can keep you in the loop with the right roles that are coming through. I don't think you need to worry about too much about having not worked. I think some of the best candidates I've worked with have taken a year or two break, and firms are crying out, and businesses as well, crying out for the skills that they have. So I wouldn't see that necessarily as an issue. And I wouldn't worry too much about that as well. Are the best roles really hidden and not advertised? No, that's not true. I think sometimes if we have a bank of candidates, say 10 or 15 candidates who are all looking for a commercial in-house role, and a role comes in and we already have 15 candidates perfect for that role, then we're not going to advertise that role, because we can just get to work on talking with the candidates we've already had conversations with. But I don't think the best roles are hidden. I mean, if they are, then maybe I don't know about it, but it wouldn't make much sense for them to be hidden in my eyes, because if businesses and firms are trying to attract the right candidates, having a hidden role you're just not going to help. Maybe they have in-house teams who go out and approach specific candidates with LinkedIn searches. But I think that's slightly different to the role. I think
the only time that does apply, Sean, on that particular point, is where a firm maybe is going out to market with a very discreet assignment or retainer. Example being, firm wants to get a new partner but doesn't want the whole market knowing about it. And that's more of what I would call a retained headhunt search. But, again, that role isn't hidden. Someone is working on it and going out and approaching people. So
I think that's where LinkedIn, having all the correct information, is so important, because there could be a role out there which is perfect for you, where a business or a firm is searching for, or an agency, and because you don't have the relevant things on your LinkedIn, you're not coming up on the LinkedIn searches.
It's crazy. The amount of candidates that don't have their LinkedIn profiles marked correctly, or have their practice areas on there. You get lawyers who just have lawyer or solicitor on their LinkedIn profiles. And the problem with that is, if you don't have the practice area, you don't appear in our searches when we're looking for you. And the candidates that have their profiles keyword optimized the best, and it's crazy actually, sometimes when we go onto LinkedIn, it's the same candidates that always come up the top of our search, because they've optimized their profiles correctly. Right, let's try and answer at least a couple more, Sean. Right. Good morning. I mainly practice immigration. I would like to move to family law. I've studied family law in the LPC and I've dealt with some non-mor and divorce cases. How do I move to family law? Really common question, how to move practice areas. It's not easy. It's very difficult. The easiest way to move practice areas is internally in your own firm, to speak internally and say you want to move to that department, or try and deal with a mixed caseload, which it sounds like you've had some experience. But what you need to do is to try and swing your caseload over to be more family law. It doesn't even matter if your caseload is only 50-50. That's probably enough for you to come to the market with, to look for a new role on the basis that you want to specialize in it properly. But if you've got zero experience in the practice area you want to move to, it's very, very, very difficult. What you would need to probably do is start networking in that area, then make the move over, and try and get to know people in the sector. What I would say is try and get more experience. You've got to ask yourself a question. If the firm aren't willing to give you that experience, would they rather lose you, which is potentially the risk they run if that's not what you want to do, rather than keep you? Sean, question for you. How do firms see someone who wants to move from working in a regional international law firm to a London law firm? Are there any prejudices or false myths?
This is something I've dealt with quite a lot as well previously. So I think the move can be quite simple. I think a lot of the firms in London do obviously send a lot of work out to the regions. I think that's common. They do that because the charge out rate is naturally lower, and they can then deal with more of the juicy work in their City of London offices, where it makes sense to do that, where the lawyers tend to be paid a lot more. So they need to obviously get a lot more for their money, realistically. I think you've got relevant skills. You're dealing with really good quality work most of the time. I think firms in London are looking for people like that. There is a shortage of certain skills in London at any one time. I've seen the market change so much in my time, where at points I've worked on 40 corporate roles at any one time. There's only been 2 corporate lawyers on the market. So I think the move can be done. It can be done quite simple. Again, align yourself with the right recruiter, keep an eye out for the right roles. But just because you're working in a regional office of an international law firm, I don't think there's any issues with that. You can make the move to London, and candidates and lawyers in general do that all of the time. It's just about timing. Most of these things are about timing, but the right role will come along. There aren't any false myths, I don't think. I don't see that. I think if you're in a regional office of a city firm and you move to London, I've seen that sometimes that doesn't work as well. I think moving to a London team, the culture may be different, or the team may be different, the dynamic may be different. So you may be pushed out slightly. It's happened. Obviously, it's not nice that it happens, but it does happen. I think moving to another firm, it should be absolutely fine. I think you just need to invest in yourself and be ready to hit the ground running, because naturally, like I said, it can be a lot more demanding in those offices, but there shouldn't be any issues with it.
Okay, I'm going to take this one last question. Hi, I am being made redundant as a conveyancing solicitor of 10 years PQE plus. Unfortunately, I am disabled with MS. How do I put my skills forward and make my disability irrelevant? I think don't even think about the disability. Just get your skills down on paper and sell yourself in the right way. There's a lot of legislation out there in regards to people who have disabilities. But, if it's not preventing you in any way moving forward with your career, don't let that hold you back and get in a mindset that, you're not able to get the role or whatever because of that reason. We have candidates all the time who approach us with different disabilities, different things that they need to have accommodate them. And don't let that in any way hold you back. Just go out there, sell your skills and be the best that you can possibly be. Unfortunately, it's 11 o'clock and I'm going to get in trouble if I run over. I'm really sorry we didn't get a chance to get through all the questions. We gave it our absolute best shot. Please do connect with us on LinkedIn, Sean Nicholson or Jason Connolly, or you could go to our website, www.jmc-legal.com. If you do have a burning question, do feel free to just submit it to our emails. We will come back to you. It might not be immediately, but we will come back to you. It's been an absolute delight. Thanks to the Law Society for having us this morning. We hope to do another one of these again soon. And thank you all for joining us, and best of luck in your careers.
Thank you.